Hello and welcome to another really short ATP geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is just a tiny little update because I was just fascinated in what's taken place today, and I just wanted to share that with you. So I could talk about how there has been continued counterattacks, localized counterattacks, both north and south of Bakhmut. It seems that the Ukrainians have continued in the same vein as yesterday, and they are making breakthroughs, perhaps particularly north of Bakhmut. As you can see from this is a Wagner map. They are admitting that much. I do wonder whether there could be a route here. That might be the pro-Ukrainian in me getting the better of my rational senses. But you do get the idea that the Ukrainians are, the Russians are retreating quickly from these particular areas, and that things aren't looking good for them. And I've seen some footage of pretty routish behavior. So that could happen, and that would be a significant event if we see a capitulation of the Russian forces around Bakhmut in a fundamental and rather embarrassing way. But that's not what I'm going to talk to you about. That's what I could talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about the Storm Shadow. So this is the missile, the cruise missile I was telling you about this morning. The news that the British were going to provide those came out yesterday. And as often with these systems or munitions, they're announced when they are already in place. Indeed, the delay in announcing was due to the fact, apparently, that they were getting fitted, they were having their fittings sorted out so they could be fired from Soviet era planes that the Ukrainians have. And I believe that's what has happened. And potentially at least one has been shot today. So there's lots of footage coming out, and this is all very big news. And the footage concerns Luhansk. So let's go and find Luhansk on a map just to explain, give you a sense of the distances and why it looks like it's at least going to be something like a Storm Shadow. It could be Hirim 2, could be something else. It's not necessarily a Storm Shadow. We don't know, but everyone is talking about this. It could be a bit of a proximity bias. Oh, we were talking about Storm Shadow yesterday. Something's exploded in Luhansk, and it appears to be at least sort of 120 odd kilometers away from where you would normally expect something to be fired. Storm Shadow has a much greater range. Indeed, the idea that I was telling you about its range this morning, there's good evidence to suggest that actually the Storm Shadow range is far greater than that which is has been officially declared. But I'll explain that tomorrow in my news update. I just want to talk about what's happened. So it appears that somewhere in Luhansk has been hit quite fundamentally. Sometimes I see two lots of smoke coming out, but I don't know if it's just one hit. Here it is. One of Polypack factory buildings has reportedly been hit in occupied Luhansk. It is yet unclear what the premises were used for. Before the occupation, the company produced packaging. In 2016, media reported that Russians were moving the company's equipment to Russia. View from yet another angle there of the fire in the building of the Polypack factory. You can see it's fairly significant, and the building has been really fundamentally damaged. As I said this morning, fundamentally disassembled. The location is about 90 kilometers behind the front line. I mean, that's the front line. You're going to be firing anything from far behind the front line. And as you can see, a couple of plumes of smoke. I don't know if that smoke there is connected to the initial, but it does look like there maybe were two strikes. But there you go. Now, OSINT Defender here says a machine building plant in the city of Luhansk near the state circus has reportedly been struck by at least 2 Ukrainian missiles, causing a massive fire. Emergency crews are currently on scene as they attempt to control the situation. The factory appears to have been totally destroyed, with multiple office and industrial buildings nearby suffering severe damage from the explosion and resulting fire. However, it appears that firefighters have contained the fire to only the factory complex. And there's some footage there. And this, I think, is a bit of a telltale sign. So contrails from one of the Ukrainian missiles seen shortly after the explosions in Luhansk. The contrails seen, as well as the altitude of them, seem to indicate a ballistic missile, probably a Tochka, but definitely not Storm Shadow or any other kind of cruise missile. So does that mean that we're not talking about Storm Shadow? I don't know. There are different bits of the jigsaw to try and piece together here. Now, Russian bloggers, according to Tim White, speculate British long-range missiles could have been used today to test them on Luhansk. The so-called LPR says it celebrates its Republic Day today. The son of the Russian Defense Minister Shoigu was in Luhansk, but wrote that he is okay. What else do we have to say? Well, missile strikes, says Jimmy Rushton, reported in the temporarily occupied city of Luhansk, eastern Ukraine. The target was apparently an oil depot in the city. It doesn't seem to be that. Over 100 kilometers behind the front line, city is well out of range of GMLRS and HIMARS rockets. Footage from one of the missile strike locations, local Russian Telegram channels are claiming two missiles hit targets within Luhansk, and then more footage of one of the missile impacts. I've shown you that one already. The Ukrainian attack in Luhansk included the use of ADM-160B decoy missiles to confuse Russian air defense. So that is again significant. I'm going to talk about that. Someone says GLSDB may have made an appearance, 150 kilometer range, and reports that these were quiet compared to HIMARS, which they would be in the final phase to target. Now, whatever that it was that was fired, there have been these decoys. So this is OSINT Defender saying a part that appears to be from ADM-160 MALD air-launched decoy missile has reportedly been discovered near the site of the Ukrainian missile strike in Luhansk. The missile is developed and produced by the US, with it never being announced for Ukraine. The ADM-160 is used for saturation and disruption of air defenses, allowing the air defense systems to target this decoy missile instead of other armed missiles, which are usually launched alongside or right after the MALD. Now, only US military aircraft such as F-16s and B-52s are known to be capable of launching ADM-160 MALDs. So this most likely means that they have found some way to mount and launch them from Ukrainian MiG-29s without announcing it, and that would be massive. So this, again, really significant. Trent Telenko talks about these decoy missiles, saying essentially they're a small cruise missile or glide bomb geared to jam radars, drop chaff, and radiate missile fire control signals to look like a larger aircraft. Its presence in Ukraine arsenal means a great deal. MOLD is one of the part of a triumvirate of suppression of enemy air defenses tools developed by the US military that includes the HARM, so those are the anti-radiation missiles, and JSOW, and later JASSAM, to deal with evolving Soviet-Russian integrated air defense systems. This August 30th, 2022 article will go deeply into how the molds come back, how its role is, how its role works. So I won't go into that now, but you get the idea. And already we're starting to see memes come out. So you got, Big Ben with wings on hitting there. And you've got Rishi Sunak and Zelensky laughing together like that. I think that's brilliant. However, it may not have been Storm Shadow. I don't know. This is still really early doors. There's still information coming out. Whatever it is, it kind of doesn't really matter, because it can, whatever it is, the Ukrainians are able to hit Luhansk. Now, Luhansk has been a bit of a sanctuary area. It's been somewhere where they have been able to, apparently, I was reading earlier, there's an awful lot of military stuff around there that has been deemed safe and behind the lines far enough. Now, if they can start hitting that, then that means the Russians are going to have to rethink their whole logistics situation and setup. So this is absolutely, it's hugely significant, this hit. Again, it doesn't really matter whether it's Storm Shadow. If it is Storm Shadow, then you announce it one day, use it the next day. I mean, that is huge as well, and especially to have that alongside a kind of potential capitulation in Bakhmut is a bad day for the Russians. But if it's GLSDB, then I don't know. That's maybe even more significant. And if it's an indigenous missile, that's possibly even more significant, because this is to say, hey, we've been given Storm Shadow cruise missiles. We don't have to use them. We can use this, and we could use that. Like, the fact that we don't really 100% know what it is even better for the Ukrainians. If you're pro-Ukrainian, of course, if you're pro-Russian, bad luck. So anyway, I just thought I was kind of that interested in this, and it was that current that I thought I'd better just say something about it. I will, of course, be mentioning it in my news piece tomorrow, and maybe some more information will come out as the dust settles, quite literally. Anyway, thanks so much. Please like, subscribe, and share all that kind of usual stuff. Toodle pips, and I'll catch you later.